All right, let's tell us the story of Johnny Holmes, because this is also, I guess, tells largely the story, or in some respects, the story of you of you exiting this movement.
Well, once I finally decided to leave the movement in 1995, I had lost everything around that time. I had closed my record store where I was selling white power music because I had begun to meet people at the store that I'd kept outside of my circle, people who were African American or Jewish or gay, and suddenly I began to connect with them and humanize them and force the demonization outside of my head, and realized I had more in common with them than I did with the people that I'd surrounded myself with.
Did they know?
But I closed the store.
I'm sorry. Did those customers that came in because you met this wide array of people that you had demonized? Did they know that you were a white supremacist and they engage you, or was it just sort of like, "Hey, I come in here every Thursday
No,
to check out your albums," that type of thing?
They knew. They knew. It was Chicago is a big city, but it's a small community as well. And I was obviously very well known for my activities. They absolutely knew. And they came in cautiously empathetic. And over time, they felt more comfortable. And these were the people that I received compassion from when I least deserved it. And they were the folks I least deserved it from because, they were my enemy. And they were the people that I had hurt. And they still came in seeing something inside of me that I maybe didn't even see myself. And they, forced their empathy on me, and they didn't have to do that. But anyway, when I pulled the white power music from the shelves because I was so embarrassed to sell it in front of these new friends, the store had to close. So I lost my livelihood. My wife and my children, had left me because I hadn't left the movement quickly enough, and they weren't a part of it. I didn't have a great relationship with my parents, and I'd walked away from the only community and identity that I'd really known. So I suffered a pretty deep depression for 5 years, and in 1999, a friend came to me very concerned, and she said, "I don't want you to die. Please, let's change something." And she encouraged me to go apply for a job where she was working at IBM, and I thought she was nuts. I said, "There's no way that a guy with, Nazi tattoos on his body, who'd never gone to college, who was kicked out of 6 different high schools, one of them twice, is ever going to get a job, with a computer company." And by the way, I don't even own a computer. But she, encouraged me to go, and I went, and I ended up getting the job, and I was thrilled because it was the first thing in my life that really seemed to have some forward momentum and meaning. And it was a job setting up the computers and the network at a school district, and I was thrilled until I found out that school district that I'd be, working at for the next several months was the same high school that I'd been kicked out of twice. And as you can imagine, I was terrified. I thought, here I am 5 years out of the movement. I'm trying to build a better life. I'm a better father. I treat people with respect and with tolerance. And I'm just going to lose this thing that has any meaning to me. I'm going to go back to that depression where I wanted to, wake up and wish that I hadn't woken up. And of course, it's karma or destiny or fate would have it. In that first hour, as I'm creeping around the dark hallways, trying to not be seen or recognized who walks by me, but Mr. Johnny Holmes, the older black security guard who I'd gotten in a fist fight with that got me kicked out the second time and dragged out in handcuffs. And he didn't recognize me, but I saw him. And I had never talked about my past. I'd been trying to outrun it for 5 years. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say, but I knew I had to do something. So I followed him to the parking lot and tapped him on the shoulder. And when he recognized me, he took a step back because he was afraid. And all I could think to say to this man who I'd, hurt physically and tormented was, "I'm sorry." And he stuck out his hand, and I shook it, and we talked, and we embraced, and cried a little bit. And he made me promise one thing after forgiving me. He made me promise that I would tell my story, and that story ultimately became the book White American Youth. But yeah, he changed my life because he let me know that what was killing me inside was the fact that I had been trying to outrun my past. And he also recognized, I think, that it wasn't the story of some, broken kid from a terrible family who went into, a domestic terrorist group. He recognized it was the story, or the potential story, of every young person who was on a search for identity, community, and purpose, and had hit a wall on that search. So I hope, I hope the insight that I give on what drew me in, what life was like in it, and ultimately how compassion helped me out, will be able to reach other young people who might be struggling despite, their race, their religion, where they come from in society. I think it's a story that can relate to every young person.